This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Outdoor restrictions. Reaction to the province's decision to close or limit outdoor activity in parks and wooded areas. Dried up. A lack of rain has well owners in Nova Scotia looking for other water sources. And broken windmills. A Cape Breton resident wants action on the derelict structures.
High pressure continues to dominate, which means the search for raindrops continues with nothing in the short to even long term. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. Provincial, municipal and federal parks across Nova Scotia are now either closed or off limits to many outdoor activities. The decision by the province comes amid concerns that dry weather is creating an extreme risk of forest fires. As Kyle Moore reports, despite fire departments being on edge, not everyone is following the rules.
The Cape Breton Highlands is a popular spot for tourists, but on Wednesday, Parks Canada closed all trails. It follows a message from Nova Scotia's Premier to stay out of the woods.
We came here, we drove like an hour and a half just to come see this, and now we can't.
The Nova Scotia government announced a ban on activities in the woods and said people who don't follow the rules will be fined.
There's no need for unnecessary risk, and we need Nova Scotians to respect that. And for those who don't respect it, we'll fine them.
Firefighters in CBRM have responded to at least 2 brush fires a day in the last week, including this one in Glace Bay that threatened homes.
We can't even express how dry the woods are and then the grass is. This thing was racing with the wind, and the first crews couldn't even keep up to how fast it was burning.
8 fire departments helped get the blaze under control before any damage was done. Fire crews in CBRM have also responded to 50 illegal backyard fires since the fire ban was put in place.
It is frustrating. It's as a councillor, but I think it's more frustrating as the firemen as they respond to these fires. And it just seems like people need to stop looking for loopholes to get around things.
This isn't the first time that travel and activities in the woods has been restricted. It also happened in 2001 and 2016 due to fires and dry conditions. And in 2023 because of 2 major wildfires on the mainland that destroyed hundreds of homes. Chief John Chan says he's surprised that some people are pushing back against the new rules.
It is scary when you look at Facebook and you see the amount of kickback and pushback from these burning bans and the forestry bans, because if a fire gets going, it's going to be a catastrophe.
Chief Chan says for now he's on standby hoping for the best, but the forecast predicts more dry weather for a while yet. Kyle Moore, CBC News, Glace Bay.
Now, so far this year, 10 tickets worth more than $25,000 each have been issued to people allegedly violating burn restrictions. 7 summary offense tickets have been issued by conservation officers since the fine was permanently increased in May. Nova Scotia RCMP has issued 3 tickets. In Halifax and Truro, those who were at the park today gave their thoughts on the restrictions, including trails being closed.
Not too happy about it.
Yeah, why not?
I feel like a lot of people really enjoy spending time outside, like mental health and stuff too.
I think they're doing the right thing.
I don't know what we're going to be doing. All the indoor activities mainly are not dog friendly.
I think they're a good idea. People are out there smoking and not doing what they're supposed to be doing, so it's for our safety.
I think they're absolutely terrible. I think it is which is a climate lockdown.
I mean, you can see it in the grass. It's all brown, and so it's nice that they are taking measures.
And as the drought continues, thousands of homeowners who rely on well water are starting to get worried. Delivery trucks are working more than 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, just to keep up with the desperate calls for water. Preston Mulligan brings us this story from Middle Musquodoboit.
Garth Higgins fills 2 barrels at the Halifax Water Depot along Route 224 in the Musquodoboit Valley. Cold, clean, chlorinated water, something in short supply all over this valley.
It's my 19th summer for doing this, and pretty much the driest I've ever seen it, and especially being this early.
Higgins is on vacation from his regular job at the Michelin tire plant so he can deliver water 7 days a week, usually for at least 12 hours a day, to customers like Bob and Donna Collings, who are no doubt happy to see him. They waited a few days, knowing there were other customers with less water than they have, but they're running out too. They're down to less than a foot of water in this old stone-walled well. Once it starts flowing, relief.
Beautiful sight. Yes, it is.
Once the well is full for their drinking water, they send water into the basement. Usually rainwater is enough to keep this cistern topped up, but not this year. Once it's full, he and his wife are good till at least the fall. He says he feels like one of the lucky ones today.
I have a son-in-law that lives in 9 Mile River, and he said if you can get water, you better get it, because over here people are being denied because they're just so busy that they can't take any new customers on. So, yeah, we're lucky to have Garth here for sure. And
at the end of the day, you know, people get their water and they can literally flush their toilets and have a normal life again. It sets in quite deep, and knowing that I can help these people and provide the service for people in the Muscatella Valley and then some.
With that job done, Higgins is off to fill up again. What worries him most is the weather and what could happen over the next 2 months. Preston Mulligan, CBC News, Middle Muscatava.
And speaking of the weather, joining us now, Ryan Snoddon from the CBC Weather Center, and not a lot of hope in sight, certainly in the near term, for any amount of moisture at all.
No, it's 7-day forecast is sun, 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 sun. It's really looking like next week will be the next chance for some showers. Look back before we look forward, and a recap from July. Now, this is proving what we already know, but this from ECC's Climate Atlantic, and you can see how much of the province in just the 25 to 50% of normal rainfall in the month of July, and a couple of pockets less than 25% of normal out towards Digby County and Annapolis Royal. Another little pocket just north of the metro area. The metro area actually pretty interesting. Northwest of the city, places like Hammonds Plains up towards Fall River, near 30% of normal there. Down towards Duncan's Cove and Prospect, amounts there were a little bit higher, towards 80 to 90% of normal. The peninsula itself was right around 50 to 60% of normal for the month of July. So we all definitely need the rain, Tom. We'll break down that full 7-day forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Yeah, keen to get to the forecast. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, the province has released a long-awaited plan to improve traffic congestion in and around Halifax. The PC government says they will start planning for long-term projects like bridges and light rail. But opposition parties say they don't see any urgency to help people now. Haley Ryan reports.
After years of work and consultation, the Regional Transportation Plan lays out 39 actions to improve traffic flow in and around the Halifax area.
People need to get to work, people need to drop their kids off at school, people need to get to medical appointments, and we need to make it easier for people to do that.
Tilley says the province's response includes short-term measures over the next 2 years, like AI technology to control traffic lights and carpool lanes. Longer range ideas include a rapid bus system, expanded highways, bus service between nearby municipalities, studying light rail, and updating the McKay Bridge.
So that's what we're sort of initiating, is trying to get ahead of things now, which we probably should have been doing many years ago.
The Joint Regional Transportation Agency was set up 4 years ago to look at Halifax and communities within an hour's drive of the capital. It was rebranded as Link Nova Scotia earlier this year and given a province-wide mandate. But opposition leaders say these solutions will not help people stuck in gridlock now.
The report's a year late. It's really a study of studies.
Government's response reads like a someday wish list of things that we might do that will actually help us move people around.
The Liberals and NDP say they are worried about the relationship between the province and Halifax after Premier Tim Houston recently intervened on a bike lane design that would have turned Morris Street one way for cars.
Government's going to have to sit down with HRM Council, look at a lot of the aspects of the study, and that started with a fight over one street.
The province says they will pause Halifax bike lanes to make sure they fit future development, which was not a recommendation of the transportation plan. Tilley offered no details on which bike lanes could be paused. He says some items in the plan will cost in the low millions, while others will be billions of dollars. Haley Ryan, CBC News, Halifax.
Public health officials say there are now 53 cases of measles in Nova Scotia, and all of those patients are no longer contagious. Just one person has been hospitalized with the virus, a child who remains in stable condition at the IWK. Officials won't say exactly where the cases are located, only that they are in the province's northern zone. In spite of the province cutting its funding, the Nova Scotia Firefighter School says it wants to keep going. On Tuesday, provincial officials condemned the school's safety standards and leadership in light of a damning audit report. In a statement on social media, the school says it disagrees with some findings in the audit, but welcomes recommendations for restructuring the organization. The audit was sparked by the death of Skylar Blackie, a Truro firefighter who was fatally injured in a training exercise at the school in 2019. Nova Scotia's Environment Minister says the province's goal of being off coal and generating 80% of its electricity from renewables could require the help of offshore wind. As Michael Gorman reports, that creates a tricky situation for the government.
Nova Scotia's Environment Minister says 14 recently approved onshore wind farms like this one in Eller's House will go a long way to the province getting off coal and generating most of its electricity from renewables by 2030. But the minister says that might not be enough.
Yes, that will be a huge component of it, but if you look at our clean energy plan, it's a number of other things like solar, offshore wind, that's going to help us achieve that target.
The problem for Hallman is there is no way offshore wind will be ready by 2030. Bids on potential developments off Nova Scotia's coast won't open until late this year, and it takes at least 7 years to build an offshore farm. The Ecology Action Center's Director of Programs says there's lots of ambition in offshore wind, but it's a long-range goal. When it comes to meeting its 2030 climate targets, she says the government appears to lack courage.
So lacks courage to have mature conversations, lacks courage to be fully transparent. There are multiple reports that have not been released that relate to these goals, and the courage to admit when they're not on track to meet a goal.
A recent report on the government's progress shows mixed results. Efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and increase efficiency programs are going well, but there's a long way to go when it comes to protecting land and water mass and expanding the uptake of electric vehicles. The government has already abandoned plans for a provincial food strategy, and the report raises questions about whether it will ban oil-fired heating equipment in new buildings by the end of this year. Hallman says he's laser focused on meeting the targets, but adds that the climate change plan is not written in stone. Michael Gorman, CBC News, Halifax.
At a wind farm in Cape Breton, half of the windmills that stand on site are broken. The company that owns the structures are yet to make a decision if they will be fixed or decommissioned. That indecision has one resident upset. Anna Rack reports.
It's rusting, has lost bolt caps, and won't spin quickly on windy days. This windmill stands alone, behind a construction site in Glace Bay. 20 minutes away, 5 more broken windmills on a farm in Lingan. The older turbine models have broken down. CBRM resident Perry McGuinness wants derelict structures removed if they can't be fixed.
I thought we would either get a brand new model and put a new model up, but I would like them to take them down and basically clean this area up and not abandon the windmills.
Capstone Infrastructure is the company that built and owns the machines. McInnes contacted them at their office in Toronto.
They've just been giving me the runaround as to when they're coming back online, and finally they admitted they don't work.
These are older machines, and parts and other things like that are a bit more difficult to come by, and it's a bit of a unique situation. So right now we are continuing to explore every avenue possible to restore and repair them. And we should have a decision as to whether or not they must be all decommissioned by the end of this year.
The energy generated by the turbines is owned by Capstone, but they sell it to Nova Scotia Power.
Believe me, Capstone wants these turbines spinning more than anybody else, as we're the ones sitting here losing money over it. So we're really trying to find a creative solution to repair them so they can keep delivering clean power to the grid.
Capstone says the windmills will be decommissioned if they can't be repaired. The company's final decision will be made by the end of this year. Anna Rack, CBC News, Glace Bay.
And speaking of wind, looks like there's enough wind for these sailboats outside Halifax Harbour tonight. Ryan Snoddon back with your full weather forecast in just a couple of moments.
This weather update is brought to you by Access Wellness Nova Scotia. Book your appointment today for free, confidential mental wellness support.
For weather forecast now, lots of talk of the dry conditions in Nova Scotia, of course. But if you are a tourist on the coast of Nova Scotia, this weather is pretty darn nice.
Yeah, I've got some friends here from Ontario right now, and they are loving it.
They picked it.
Yeah, and Amy, of course,
Yes,
usually sitting here.
Doing all right, I'm sure.
Yeah, loving it as well. And there are a lot of folks who are off. And listen, we can't change it. And the summer is so short. So we might as well enjoy it while it's here and just be fire safe. Obviously, be super careful. The restrictions in place, but get out to the beach or wherever you can for a walk and just get out and enjoy some of the sunshine because the season it's super short. So let's enjoy it while it's here. And lots of folks enjoying it right now, as you can see in Lunenburg.
Big crowd on the waterfront tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Blue Nose 2 there in the background, and just a terrific evening there in Lunenburg. As we look at the temperatures out there right now, Yeah, it's a lovely evening across the province. Temperatures in the low to mid-20s. We've got temps into the teens. In fact, Sydney with a bit of an onshore wind there, as well as Bacaro at 19 with a bit of an onshore wind there. The dew point values low, and this is a very solid indicator of the temperatures that are going to be cooling off tonight. High single digits, some low double digits, and so we'll get that dew on everything overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning, and so at least we'll get a little bit of moisture from that and keep the fire risk low through the overnight into the early morning hours. There is Tropical Storm Dexter, which continues to spin off to the east. Watching this developing low here around the southeast parts of the U.S. The National Hurricane Center is giving that a 20% chance of tropical cyclone, or at least I should say cyclone formation, could be subtropical, but a 20% chance of it essentially getting a name, which would be Aaron. But it's looking less likely than not right now. And so what we'll be hoping for is at least this can maybe spin some moisture up into our region, although even that is looking a little spotty right now in terms of those chances. Let's have a look first at Phoenix at 46 right now. That's standing out like a sore thumb on the map. Most of Canada kind of riding near seasonal for this time of year. Overnight lows tonight are going to be in the high single, low double digits, as I said. We're going to see the winds light tonight, and that will set the stage for some fog patches setting up, and then we're going to be seeing that fog mix out with lots of sunshine back on tap for Thursday. Light winds, and so a sea breeze setup type of day. Temperatures anywhere from 20 to 22 along the coast for Inverness and along Richmond County as well, but most of Cape Breton will get to 24, 25 degrees under those light winds. Eastern parts of the mainland, Antigonish back towards Sherbrooke, bit of an onshore wind here and here, so just be mindful that coastal temps could be a little bit cooler, but you'll have to be right along the coast with those winds fairly light. Won't take long to warm up just inland. 24 degrees in through Halifax metro area tomorrow, 24 to 26. Back into the west, and you can see temperatures ranging between 20 and onshore winds for the South Shore, mid to high 20s elsewhere. Looking, again, lovely if you've got some time off right now. High pressure moving off to the south, and you can see for Friday, watching this frontal boundary starting to approach, and so we'll get into a southerly wind ahead of it, and temperatures will, as a result, be warming up. Mid to high 20s looking set for Friday. Mugginess staying fairly low. And then here comes that front. And again, it's looking positive as it's working its way in, but it's just going to be running into that high and kind of fizzling out, as you'll see. Note the muggy meter creeping up into the notably noticeable range into early next week. We'd want to see it a bit higher before we'd really get into some shower and rumbles of thunder chances. Note the sunshine train continues right through into Wednesday now, but I am going to show you this in a moment. Let's go even further. So there's that front that kind of fizzles for Sunday, maybe a sprinkle for PEI, maybe another sprinkle early next week. There's that system that I just talked about that's going to be working its way up into the region, but really not much from that by the looks of things. It's now Tuesday, Wednesday, into Thursday of next week, and here comes our next chance, which will be Thursday, I think, into Friday. And that at least looks substantial, and I know it's way out, but at this point, Tom, that's where we are. We're looking way, way out and hoping for sure.
There is hope. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, with such dry conditions across the country comes fear of destructive wildfires. New research shows that the direct fatalities reported during a wildfire often don't capture the full picture. Alison Northcott explains.
The wildfires in Los Angeles earlier this year were intense and devastating. By official counts, 30 people died, but new research suggests that toll may be much higher.
We estimated an excess mortality toll of 440 deaths, far above the official estimate. Our excess mortality estimate also includes those deaths that were indirectly related to the wildfires.
The research letter in the Journal of the American Medical Association points to several likely factors, including increased exposure to poor air quality and healthcare delays and interruptions. Experts say it's the latest in a growing body of research looking at how extreme weather events affect our health during a disaster and after.
As long as we continue to think about the impact of climate as being episodic, as being this event, and that's the health impact, we're really going to be at a disadvantage.
Many parts of Canada have been dealing with wildfires again this summer and the smoky air that comes with it.
Big breath in.
and out. Good.
Respiratory therapists say patients can feel it.
They're scared to go outside. They don't know what's going to happen if they go outside. They can't breathe. They feel like they're having difficulties to breathe, that their lungs are on fire.
The LA fires burned a large urban area with the destruction of buildings and other materials like metals and plastics. In Canada, smoke from forest fires also brings health risks.
When the air pollution increases, there's increased risk of mortality from heart and lung diseases.
Researchers are also warning about the long-term effects of exposure to wildfire smoke year after year. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Coming up, with those conditions remaining hot and dry, Halifax Water is asking customers to cut down on consumption. Halifax Water is asking residents of the HRM to voluntarily conserve water. This is in light of the long dry spell, of course, that we're having. And as of now, the weather forecast is not calling for much rain at all. Brittany Smith is with Halifax Water. So, Ms. Smith, what's the state of things at the watersheds and the reservoirs at this point?
So, like the rest of Nova Scotia, it's dry at our watersheds, and lakes. We still are in our normal range, but we are seeing no rain in the coming weeks. So this is why it had prompted our voluntary water restrictions.
Yeah, so what exactly do you want Haligonians to do?
Just to be mindful of how much water they're using and to conserve where needed. So some simple tips could be, if it's yellow, let it mellow. Toilets can use, depending on your efficiency, 6 to 26 liters of water when flushing them. Also being mindful of your water running when brushing your teeth, shaving, and then limiting excess water, such as watering your lawns, washing your cars, and filling swimming pools.
I saw some people online who were musing or considering ways to use the same water twice. I mean, that's the kind of mindset you want people to adopt here, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We've seen folks that are using their dehumidifier water to water their inside plants, or if they're making some pasta, to be using that excess water to water their plants, or to be able to reuse the water.
And I guess maybe think twice before you run the tap for cold water.
Yeah, so we recommend that, if possible, to fill a container or a Brita rather than waiting for your drink to be cold.
All right, those are some little changes that everyone can make, and across the whole population, of course, it would make a difference, I suppose. But what are you telling businesses that normally use a lot of water? I'm thinking of people like car washes or breweries or that sort of business.
So this is solely voluntary at this point. Anything they can do, such as for restaurants, and this is for homeowners as well, ensuring that you're washing full loads of dishes if you do have a dishwasher, and full loads of laundry. So anything that they can do to cut back as well does go a long way.
How unusual is this call to conserve water?
I mean, it's been a few years since there's been a drought here, so several years, or last fall we did have one at Lake Major. We didn't see as much water over on the Dartmouth side, so we had this call last fall for Lake Major, but across all Halifax Water, this isn't that common.
Yeah. What does Halifax Water do if someone calls in and snitches on their neighbor or suggests someone's using more water than maybe they should be?
So currently it's just voluntary, and we're asking people to cut back where they can, but unfortunately, if the dry weather continues and the demand on the system continues, we'll be then moving into our mandatory stage.
Can Halifax Water monitor someone's usage?
Yes, everybody's usage is monitored and tracked.
And so if someone was using an exorbitant amount of water, you would know about that? Maybe there's a conversation to be had there?
I don't think we're ready to go down that road yet, where it's just voluntary, but if things continue, that could be an avenue we pursue.
Yeah, so and then at what point would you have to get to make it mandatory? What are you looking for in the reservoirs and the lakes?
Yeah, so we're looking hopefully for rain, and we don't have to get to that point, but we're monitoring our lakes very closely, and if we get below a certain threshold, then we'll have to move to our next stage, which would be mandatory restrictions.
Okay, and I understand there's something called a watch level. That's kind of a next stage or a near stage. What does that mean?
Yeah, so we're essentially kind of bordering between our normal and our watch phase. So we'll be in our watch phase in the coming days, and that's where we're putting voluntary, and then we'll be moving to our warning level, which is then where we'll have to do mandatory restrictions.
Okay. Well, like everyone, and a lot of farmers and people in the forests and so on, hoping for rain, some rain in the near future. Doesn't look like there's much in the forecast for the next week or 10 days or so, but fingers crossed, and hopefully things turn out well here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thousands gather in Hiroshima, Japan to mark 80 years since the U.S. dropped an atomic bomb on the city. Welcome back. Cities around the world marked 80 years since the U.S. dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. Tens of thousands of people were killed instantly. It was the first and so far only time nuclear weapons were used in war. As Chris Reyes reports, the anniversary comes amid worries over rising nuclear threats.
A city still grieving the horrors of nuclear war 80 years later. Together, Hiroshima marked the exact minute the atomic bomb was dropped, unleashing a destruction never before seen. More than 130,000 people were killed, more than 60,000 instantly. Devastating injuries still linger. We must not repeat the tragedy, says the Japanese Prime Minister.
The bomb was exploded.
And a grave warning from a survivor of Nagasaki, where a second bomb was dropped 3 days after Hiroshima.
The entire human race is on the brink of nuclear war.
At this gathering, renewed calls for a world free of nuclear weapons.
We really want countries to uphold their commitment to stop stockpiling nuclear weapons and to sign up to the Global Ban Treaty.
The message of Hiroshima comes at a time of conflict and tensions between nuclear powers. The question, how to prevent further escalation.
How do we make sure that additional states don't see nuclear weapons as the only way to ensure their security? But I think that also needs to be balanced against the reality of the threats.
In recent weeks, Russia and the U.S., the world's two biggest nuclear powers, have exchanged veiled threats over the use of nuclear weapons. Even with messages of peace everywhere in Hiroshima, this resident worries that Japan is surrounded by 3 nuclear-powered countries. Kozo Morien says, "I think it's necessary for us to strengthen our defense capabilities." On a day full of reminders of nuclear destruction, a world grapples with how to prevent another disaster. Chris Reyes, CBC News, London.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government is expected to approve a plan Thursday for a full military takeover of Gaza. The United Nations calls Netanyahu's plan deeply alarming. It says such a move would put both Palestinians and the hostages still held by Hamas in further danger. Israeli media is reporting opposition from within the military to Netanyahu's plan, and hundreds of former secretary officials are warning against it. Israel has been facing mounting international pressure to end its nearly 2-year war in Gaza, where experts say a famine is unfolding. The Kremlin says talks held Wednesday with the U.S. were, quote, useful and constructive. American envoy Steve Witkoff met with Vladimir Putin for around 3 hours on a ceasefire in Russia's war on Ukraine. The visit came 2 days before the expiry of an August the 8th deadline set by President Donald Trump for Russia to agree to a truce or face new sanctions. It's Witkoff's 5th visit to Moscow this year. In northern India, flash flooding has killed at least 4 people and left many others trapped under debris in some Himalayan villages. Dozens of others are missing. Rescuers used a makeshift zip line over raging waters to bring people to safety. Flood waters were triggered by intense rainfall in a narrow mountainous area, sweeping away homes, roads, and markets. Some crews were left to move rocks and mud with their bare hands in a hunt for survivors. Emergency officials report at least 190 rescues so far in the region. More than 10,000 Air Canada flight attendants could be on strike later this month. Their union says 99.7% of members voted in favor if a deal can't be reached with the airline. The two sides have been in contract talks since the start of the year. Issues include pay, pensions, and unpaid work, such as pre-flight checks. The vote doesn't mean that a strike is guaranteed, only that union workers support the measure if the bargaining team decides to call for a work stoppage. A 72-hour strike notice could be issued as early as August the 16th if an agreement is not reached. The airline says it remains committed to the bargaining process and is eager to reach a deal. Prime Minister Mark Carney held a virtual meeting with his cabinet today. He also met virtually with premiers. It comes after Donald Trump hiked tariffs to 35% last week on Canadian goods not covered by CUSMA. CBC spoke with the Minister of Finance, François-Philippe Champagne, who is at trade talks in Mexico City. He was asked about Canada's failure to reach a trade deal by Trump's August 1st deadline and if it had anything to do with Ottawa's decision to impose retaliatory tariffs on the U.S.
When I compare the position of Canada today with a lot of our partners around the world, I think the Prime Minister yesterday was clear when he said about 85% of goods are crossing the border to the United States under the CUSMA agreement that we have, tariff-free. So that's a position that I would say we have achieved by standing up, and I think Canadians are really with us on that.
Well, firing up the barbecue and grilling some burgers will cost you a lot more this summer. The price of beef in Canada is surging. Colin Butler explains why.
It's a summer ritual in backyards across Canada. Curling smoke, charred meat, summer's signature scent. But this season, the price tag is rising just as fast as the flames. Ground beef hit a record $14.67 a kilo in May, up 25% from last year and well beyond the rate of inflation. Beef isn't so expensive that it needs a side of financing just to pay for it, but prices are going to stay pretty high for a while. Sizzling, you might even say. The cause? Well, demand for beef has always been strong. What's different this year is the drought. Not a one-off, but a stubborn dry spell that's lingered for years, parching Alberta and Saskatchewan.
Last couple of years, we've been really affected by the drought.
With no rain for some areas since April, the cost of feed and hauling water has soared. It means cattle farmers like this one are shrinking their herds.
So we've actually reduced our cow herd in Canada down to the lowest levels we've had since the 80s. And in the US, they're down to the lowest levels since the 60s. So that's really tightened the supply up.
When ranchers raise fewer cattle, it means less beef to go around, pushing prices higher right to the butcher block.
We have no problems getting beef, but we just got to pay the higher prices for them.
Even with record prices, the love for beef isn't going up in smoke. Canadians are willing to pay more, and not just for the taste. Trade tensions have fired up a fresh appetite to buy local, and this expert says when it comes to the grill, beef still wears the crown.
There's no really good substitute for a hamburger or a steak on the barbecue. But if you want to have people to get together for a celebration, not many people are going to want a plant protein burger. They want a hamburger.
Because some traditions, even pricier ones, are just too good to give up. Colin Butler, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Charlottetown's Salvation Army has a new tool to respond to emergencies. It's called a community response vehicle, and it helps bring resources directly to where they're needed. The CBC's Gwyneth Egan has more.
Welcome to our new CRV.
If a disaster strikes, the Salvation Army's new community response vehicle is ready to jump into action. It has a full kitchen with a fridge and stove, and it runs on propane and generators. Its main purpose is to provide support during emergencies, and it's the only one of its kind on PEI.
We wanted one here simply because if there's an emergency that cuts off the bridge and the ferries can't run, then what are we going to do? To be able to be mobile and go to where the people need the service, I mean, that's amazing. That's really important.
John says post-tropical storm Fiona proved that there's a need for this kind of resource on PEI. His wife Beverly says that after Fiona, the Salvation Army got a lot of interest from volunteers who wanted to help develop an emergency response team on the island. She says that kind of support is important in times of crisis.
Having local resources just makes us be able to respond more quickly because we have local volunteers trained now. We have the equipment here, and we can get there all that faster.
The way the trucks are set up and the way we are able to work is that probably in no more than an hour or 2 hours, we could deploy out of here on our way to an event.
Although the main use for the truck is to respond to emergencies, it can also help support local communities with more routine incidents.
The thing is, once you have the equipment, there's so much that you can do. So everything from serving cold drinks when it's hot and hot soup when it's cold to being able to possibly support our local first responders when they've been, at a fire all night.
John says the Salvation Army's emergency disaster services and activities are funded by the federal government. He says he's looking forward to using the new community response vehicle to support islanders and local organizations. Gwyneth Egan, CBC News, Charlottetown.
What you can grow in your community is changing throughout much of Canada. The government's new plant hardiness zones map shows conditions have shifted because of climate change. And while that creates new opportunities for gardeners, it also serves as a sobering reminder of a warming planet. Inayat Singh has the details.
These here will bite you. These are cold hardy blue Americanas.
Dan Rashad's nursery shows what an adventurous gardener could achieve in southern Ontario.
Oftentimes we interpret growing palms in Canada as a myth. Like it's really a myth that you can't grow palms in cold climate. But you can. Depending on the species of plant, you could do whatever you want.
Now, scientific research shows the country is actually getting more suitable for new types of plants as the climate warms. A new update to Canada's plant hardiness zones, the first since 2014, shows growing conditions have changed throughout the country. In BC, the purple shows regions where citrus trees can grow, and southern Ontario zones appearing that can support some palm species.
While there are opportunities for people to try new plants in Canada, these plant hardiness zones are also a worrying reminder that the planet is getting hotter.
I think it certainly is a climate change indicator. I think it's interesting that with 7 different variables, all with varying levels of sort of climate change signal embedded in them, that out of that mass, we still see a very clear climate change signal.
The hardiness map accounts for year-round conditions, including temperature and precipitation, as well as soil conditions and wind speeds. But the shifting zones are primarily driven by warming temperatures.
Right after Labor Day, we will harvest the seed.
That brings opportunities for ambitious gardeners like Rashad, but also challenges.
It's fun to look at the fun side of climate change and say, hey, maybe I can grow some new species around my place. But yeah, we don't want to forget the fact that there's all kinds of other negative implications around climate change.
Along with the map, the government has also released species-specific models with more granular information on particular plants and crops that will guide Canadian growers as they plan their fields and gardens in a changing climate. Inayat Singh, CBC News, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Canadian researchers say they have determined what's decimating populations of giant sea stars off North America's west coast. It's a bacterium from the same family that causes cholera in humans. Science reporter Anand Ram reports.
Sometimes they're orange, or they can be this beautiful lavender color sometimes, or purples or greens. Often they're this kind of model of all of the above.
These creatures certainly live up to the name sunflower sea stars. But this is what they've become. Along the west coast from Mexico to Alaska, twisted, melted puddles of death, the result of sea star wasting disease. Now, after a decade of being pushed to near extinction, for the first time, a likely cause.
The agent is a bacteria. It's called Vibrio pectinicida.
From the same family that causes cholera in humans, scientists found it by exposing healthy sea stars to fluid from infected ones.
We inject it into the coelomic cavity of the sea star, which is essentially kind of the central part that all the arms are coming out of.
Researchers say it took years of testing and cross-border cooperation to finally lead to this clear signal.
The amazing thing is now we can test them. Now we can go out and actually do tests and see what is the actual prevalence of this pathogen in the field.
It almost kind of felt like we were never going to figure out what it was.
For those who study sunflower sea stars, the absence has let their prey, sea urchins, expand, devouring kelp forests critical to both biodiversity and coastal communities. This finding is a hope for assisted recovery programs.
So my mind goes to the practical applications of what does this mean for if we want to breed these animals and release them in the wild? can we develop a test so we can test whether the animals we bred in captivity have this disease before we outplant them?
The killer, Vibrio, is said to be a barometer of climate change, thriving in warmer waters. So there's an urgency to bring back the sea stars as they help protect coastlines from storms, also supercharged by a warming world. Anand Ram, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's main stock index soared more than 300 points today as investors cheered Shopify's quarterly results, while U.S. markets also rose. Here's a look at the numbers as we head to commercial break.
This weather update is brought to you by Access Wellness Nova Scotia. Book your appointment today for free, confidential mental wellness support.
Back to wrap things up, that time in the show where we get to see the work of a viewer and their pick for the evening. I'm guessing probably not anything with rain, moisture in it of any sort.
No, but an update, which is good because we've been kind of hearing from different folks across the region, agriculture-wise, obviously the well story earlier tonight and the fire risk, how folks are doing and handling. And this one from the Valley, this one we're going to zoom into. It is Nicholsville, and this is a Christmas tree farm that James Kane runs. Kane's Christmas trees, and he's saying that the Christmas trees are actually holding up okay.
Okay, good news.
Deeper roots obviously there, but he says, just like everybody else, we need the rain in a hurry to make sure that the trees stay okay, which they are right now, according to him. And you can see just how crispy the grass is all around them.
We're going to need those trees eventually, aren't we?
We are. So thanks to James for the update there. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. Light winds on tap for Thursday, and we are looking at just a beautiful day. Get out and enjoy, but be fire safe. And we can see the temperatures mid to high 20s. Back on tap for Friday. A bit more of a southerly flow on Friday. The mugginess, though, not into the mix over the next couple of days, which is, some fine news, really, if you're going to be getting out and enjoying things. And now, as we look at the high-pressure area moving off to the south, note the frontal boundary approaching from the west, and it's looking positive toward the end of this frame here, but yeah, that front is going to run into that high and basically stay off to the north, fizzle out, and we're not looking at much in the way of anything here. Maybe an isolated shower, possible late Monday to Tuesday, but that's looking less likely. And we are looking at, I think, if that forecast continued into Thursday, Friday, Tom, especially Friday, that's where I'm holding my hat right now, that we can actually see some wet weather.
Okay, in the meantime, lots of beach days for sure.
Yeah.
A long dormant Russian volcano has erupted for the first time in what's believed to have been at least 400 years. This striking time-lapse footage shows the Krasnikov volcano erupting on August the 3rd. The volcano is located in a remote eastern region of Russia that is sparsely populated.
The unusual eruption follows a series of seismic events, including a powerful earthquake and other volcanic activity on the Pacific Peninsula.
Spectacular, to say the least. That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.